was I was drinking a glass of red wine a day while making dinner. And I'm a pretty lightweight as it is, as far as drinking goes. And I began to get drunk every night, drinking a glass of red wine while making dinner on an empty stomach. So I pretty much stopped doing that. What's that?
Did you burn the food?
No. I started putting the red wine in the sauce I was making though. I would do that, like making pasta sauce, my grandma's recipe, and dumping a bottle of Merlot or Cab in there. But I don't know if that has the same effect as non-heated, non-boiled. It doesn't. It ruins it.
Yeah, I do.
As soon as you boil it. Well, it evaporates the alcohol, but is it the alcohol? See, now this, good. Can we come back to that? Give me like 5, 6, 10. I want to come back to that. Because that is like, if I would call that like a 246 statement. See, until 243, we're in 244. And 244 has limitations of how far we go. Because technically speaking, we could have one data set last us 10 weeks in here. Technically speaking. I would never wish that on my worst enemy. But honestly, in your jobs, that's very often what you have to do, because 9.5 weeks of those 10 is going to be collecting the data that you're then going to analyze. I just handed you 99.9999% of the work done. Actually, I handed you 100% of the work done because it's been published already. Done. Don't have to worry about losing sleep over that. So let's come back to that. The boiling off. I love that. Thank you. So, what do we, could we distill this down to red wine is good for you? Could we distill it down? Oh, Aaron says no. Good. Tell me why.
Well, I mean, I guess, yeah.
Good. I love the fact that you said yes and no at the same time. Because it depends on how you define good, right? You gotta watch those headlines. Studies show red wine is healthy. Careful. In what respect? What are we measuring here? Whether we get, more specifically, platelet aggregation, hardening of the arteries, right? The idea is we have tied physiologically hardening of the arteries to heart attacks or circulatory issues. So what we're trying to see is, does red wine or white wine have an effect on doing what to platelet aggregation? Decreasing platelet aggregation. That sounds like a hypothesis to test, doesn't it? That sounds like a hypothesis to test. So the first two questions of the quiz say, with both the red and white wine portions, what is the research hypothesis? What is it?
No change.
That's not the research, that's the null. Good for you, Elizabeth. That's the null, is that wine will, now I'm going to phrase it, it's going to sound a little bit weird. I love what Elizabeth said. She said no change. I'm going to say it a little bit different way. Wine does not do what?
Decrease platelets.
Boom! That's what I want to hear. That's actually why I have you write H1 first, usually, because it's easier to see what they're trying to test and write that down, and then write the opposite of it in the null. Does that make sense? So wine will not decrease platelet aggregation. Yeah. Love that word, aggregation. It was a toss-up. Either red wine, white wine, or multitasking among internet users and Facebook users. I went with red and white wine. You guys probably say about Facebook by now. Good, that's the null hypothesis. You can drink all the wine you want, and your blood's going to be as clumpy as it was last week. Clumpy blood, baby, clumpy blood. Fair? Now, that's assuming the null hypothesis is true and all the wines are ineffective. However, what's the research hypothesis that we're hoping?
Wine will.
Boom! That wine will decrease platelet aggregation. You know what? Let's write it. What the hell? Wine will decrease. Thank you, Chris. Platelet aggregation. We want that, right? We want to see an experimental effect that is measurable. Now, you're reading this published article, right? You're reading a published article. Chances are, what happened in the result of the experiment? Wine did something to that. And we've measured. You very rarely read negative test results in journals. I find this to be a crime, personally. I would love to see as many negative test results published as positive test results. And there's a couple reasons for that. I want to get into them later. But I would love to see as many negatives as positives, because throwing a negative, well, anyway, stop moving to that. Okay, good so far? Okay. Now, the next two questions. We'll wait till after the break, because it's 9 o'clock, and you guys are starting to look glazed. Go get some water. Go some water.